Hello, Eric Langhorst here from the Speaking of History podcast. I'm an 8th grade teacher in Liberty, Missouri, and today I'm doing a quick screencast to tell you a little bit about how I recently used Google Maps in the classroom. And just to let you know ahead of time, this is not cutting edge technology. This is real simple technology, but kind of a unique way that I found to show some of my students some landmarks around town without actually having to go on a field trip or get on a bus. Now, obviously, getting on a bus and actually walking these particular neighborhoods and the downtown area of Liberty and stuff would be the best way to do things, but I can't get 170 students on a bus during the school day and just move them around town. So this is the best thing that I've found other than just physically having them walk around town. So I started by taking my students to a place that most of them know about, and we have a historic downtown courthouse on the Liberty Square. So I told them that the next time they're on the square, they should walk down Main Street and then look down Franklin Street, and they should take one block off of the square, and this just kind of gives them a nice visual so they know exactly where they're at. We have a little area for picnics and things here with some yellow umbrellas. So then I'm going to have them walk up Gatlin Street. And last week we talked about the gold rush and western expansion. And there's a tree in Liberty that has a very unique tie to the gold rush. And we do different historic tours. The city does historic tours on the first Saturdays of each month. And I've heard this story probably about 3 or 4 different times. And I've heard it from various sources, so I know that it's a true story. But as you look at this picture, you'll notice this humongous tree. And as we get closer, you'll see just how large this tree is. This tree is very much out of its element in Liberty, Missouri. We're just outside of Kansas City, and this is a California cypress. And the story behind this tree is that there was a gentleman from Liberty that went out to the California gold fields and did not strike it rich, and eventually came back to Liberty. And he was very impressed with the large trees that he found around him when he was mining out in the gold fields in Northern California. And so he brought back 3 tiny saplings in a tin can. And what he brought back were some saplings from a California cypress tree. And so this is the tree that he brought back. There were 3 of them. He planted this one in front of the house. He also planted one at a cemetery, and then one, I believe, that was at a farm outside of Liberty. And this is the only one of the 3 that remains. So this tree was planted in the early 1850s. And it's kind of neat because Google Maps shot this in the summertime, so the tree is green. It's a lot more impressive when it's green, but you can go right in front of the house and actually see that it's a California cypress just by looking at it. And you can even zoom in a little bit on the tree. And you can go up the block and come back and get a little bit of a perspective if you want to look the other way. We did have a tornado go through Liberty about 5 or 6 years ago, and there was a little bit of damage on the side of the tree. The tornado actually came right up this block, and one of the buildings that we just walked down the hill from on the square was actually destroyed, and that's a new building that was built after the tornado. So luckily this tree survived, and it's just kind of cool every time you walk by to think about that this little tree started as a sapling, smaller than a pencil, and somebody brought it back to Liberty from the California goldfield. So if you have some historic sites around town and you'd like to take your students on a virtual field trip, you can use Google Maps to basically go anywhere in your community. If you're a community that has had Google Maps go through and shoot pictures. And my kids thought it was pretty neat, and of course then everybody wants to go and see some other historic sites and their own homes and things like that. But this is the story of the Liberty California gold rush tree. So if you've used Google Maps for anything similar, I'd love to hear about that. And you can check us out at the blog. We are at www.speakingofhistory.blogspot.com. And you can also email me at speakingofhistory@gmail.com. So that's today's screencast. I used Jing to capture this and put it directly to YouTube. Very easy to use. And remember, history is so much more than just a bunch of boring old dead guys. We'll see you again soon. Bye.